Why do some clients fly while others disappear? Now, if you have run a cohort before and you have seen those clients who absolutely fly, they absolutely ace it, they smash the results, they do all the work. And then on the flip side, you see these clients who quietly disappear. You're wondering what on earth went wrong because you had that filtration process. You invited them in, you really thought that they were going to absolutely smash it, and they disappear. And you're left with this feeling of, if they don't tap into everything that's available to them, I can't help them to get results. I can't do the work for them, but I also don't want to let them slip away because I know that they have the potential to do so much more. And the problem with this is it's really frustrating because it's the same program, it's the same content, you're the same coach, consultant, educator, and for some reason it clicks for some clients and not for others. And the prevalent market narrative is that these clients are just lazy, uncommitted, or unmotivated, that if only they just follow the process, they would get the results. But actually, you know fundamentally that this isn't true. You are not willing to accept this kind of one-liner client blaming in your programs. You want everyone to succeed. You want to also do that in a way that doesn't feel completely overwhelming and draining for you as well. So what is actually happening here? Now, there is a couple of things that I want to caveat this with. The first is that not every client is ready to succeed in your group program. Like, that is the reality. And you need to be very, very clear on who your ready for success client is. So this is where we're talking about their values, their vision for what they want to achieve, their goals, but also their skill set, their emotional situation that they're in, the environment, and whether or not that's conducive to them actually winning in your program. We also need to consider as well whether we are factoring in the reality of their life into our program design, because our exposure to education is often based off when we were at university or when we were last doing, in college or in school, when we were full-time students. And the reality is for your program is that these individuals, these clients that are coming in, are not full-time students. They are busy. There is multiple pulls and demands on their time. And what they're having to do every single day is prioritize the to-do list. And sometimes your program will fall to the bottom of that to-do list. So we need to have this awareness when we're designing our program of who we're actually creating it for, because there is no point in creating a program that requires 5 hours a week of participation in order to get results when our clients are busy parents, juggling working full time. They're also managing all the after school curriculum activities and all of these things that are going on. So we need to change and consider how we structure our programs. And we also need to factor in something called the engagement life cycle. Now, I talk about this a lot with clients. This is the 5 steps in the journey where disengagement is much more likely to happen. And these emotional points happen for every client, and whether or not they get through and past them depends upon, first, their personality, and secondly, how we support and structure our experiences around what is actually happening for them emotionally within our programs. So I'm going to talk about what the engagement lifecycle is, and I want you to really think about your current program and ask the question, am I designing for their lived reality? And if you have any niggly doubts about whether or not you're inviting the wrong people into your programs, which is possible, I will do another video on how we identify our ready for success client. So the 5 points in our client journey, our client experience within our programs where we might lose people, where they might drop off and disengage. So the first is in our onboarding, and everyone talks about how important onboarding is, but onboarding is not just about the logistics. It's not just about when the calls are and setting them up in the portal and all of those different things, which no doubt you have already got nailed. But onboarding is also an emotional priming experience, because when somebody is brought into your program, 2 things are happening at once. The first is that their anticipation and excitement levels are sky high, but also on the flip side of that, their doubts in whether or not they've made the right decision are at the highest. So in your onboarding process, we are not just giving them logistics, we are also managing this emotional seesaw that they're on, whereby they are both excited but also terrified of the decision that they've made. So if we can ease that flow of emotion from anticipation and doubt into something where they feel like they've made the right choice, then that is going to help to kickstart the process on the right foot from the get-go. The second thing is around your curriculum and how you are sharing your knowledge. The reality is that we are bombarded by information, and too much content is going to cause cognitive overload. Your clients are not going to be able to take it on board. They're not going to be able to do anything with it. And we need to move out of the kind of marketers spiel, which is create more value, stack in the bonuses, adding more stuff is not the answer. We need to minimize the information so that we can focus instead on the implementation and the taking action part. So when we reduce the amount of content that we share, I call it the path of least information, we can help our clients to feel capable of both consuming the information and then applying it. And the other thing to consider here as well is that there's going to be a reality check at some point early stage in your program where your clients go, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And if we start getting into, kind of overly descriptive and deep explanations of our work, if they're not yet ready for it, we are going to switch them off. Third point is in this messy middle phase. And this is where our clients are taking action, they're doing the work, and they are making progress. But then they hit a roadblock. They kind of go back to old patterns and old programming. They relapse and they can't build that consistency because everything they're doing is having to take such an extreme amount of cognitive effort because they are having to really think about how to do the thing. So if it's copywriting skills, they are really having to focus on, I've got to write my hook. I've got to make sure that I'm varying my sentence length. I've got to make sure that I'm getting the point across. I've got to make sure that I'm sharing the features and the benefits and not just sharing what I'm including. And all of these different facets that make the work good, make the copywriting good, become different things, different strains on their thought processing. So what we want to do in this phase, because it is very easy to quit when we move into action, consuming, learning, it's easy, it's safe, it's risk-free. When we take action, we're putting ourselves on the line. And we need to really make sure here as leaders, as creators of these programs, that we are making the action taking as easy as possible. So part of that is making sure that the actions are actually achievable. But the second thing is providing the support and the tools to help our clients be able to take action. So that might be checklists and guides, it might be AI tools, but it's also around helping them see what good looks like. So giving them kind of a success criteria to work from and helping them to track their progress, even if it feels really, really small, so they can see how far they've come. It really is our job to bridge the gap between the knowing and the doing, okay? So what I want you to really understand is that we are not giving them everything in one program. We don't need to. Part of this learning process is like what comes next. And we can lose people with what comes next if we've created this one and done style offer. If we've given that kind of kitchen sink program, there's nowhere for them to go. So one of the other places that clients can drop out is when they think that they've achieved everything that there is to achieve and you haven't painted the picture of what comes next. You know, part of client retention is actually around showing them what the future value is of continuing to work with you, because they will not stay with you even if they've got results if they don't know what comes next. So I want you to move away from accepting the wisdom that this is just the way it is. Clients will be like that. You know, some people just aren't that motivated or aren't that committed, because fundamentally every client is going through the same emotional journey. Some are better at self-regulating that journey, but as a leader of these programs, we need to have a real strong awareness of this emotional journey so that we can help to proactively support and manage it for our clients in order for them to succeed. So instead of designing your program around what do I want to teach, I want you to think about, where might I lose my clients? Where do my one-to-one clients get stuck? Where do they find it hard? What kind of questions are they asking of me at this stage in the process? What causes them to stall? What helps them to make faster progress? Because all of these questions that you're asking are going to help you design that group program experience through a similar journey, through a similar lens. And the drop-off is predictable. Okay, it might not be exactly the same point in your program and Sally's program, but it will happen at these points in your journey. It might be week 3, it might be week 5, but it will happen, not for every client, but for a lot of your clients, enough for you to go, why is this so inconsistent? Why is this not working? And if that is the case for you, I've created a flows diagnostic. It's like a scorecard. You've got some questions to answer, and it will tell you which elements of that 5-stage journey, emotional journey, you should focus on first, fixing first, to have the biggest impact. So the link to that is below, and I shall see you next time.